Welcome to Profiles in Business, brought to you by the Tucson Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce. Profiles in Business is designed to showcase businesses and the positive impact of business in our community. Now here's your host, the CEO of the Tucson Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, Mike Varney.
Well, very good morning to you and welcome to Profiles in Business, a feature of the Tucson Metro Chamber of Commerce and your connection to important information about business and the people who make it happen. My name is Mike Varney. I'm the President and CEO of the Tucson Metro Chamber and your host for today's show. Before I introduce today's guest, I'd like to recognize some of the community partners in the Tucson Metro Chamber in their chairman's circle. These are the businesses that have made a real commitment to helping the Tucson Metro Chamber promote a strong local economy. And they include Tucson Electric Power, Casino del Sol, Providence Service Corporation, Cox Business, Wells Fargo Bank, Southwest Gas, CenturyLink, Carondelet Health Network, Raytheon, BBVA Compass Bank, Comcast, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, AM 1030 KVOI, and the Jim Click Automotive Team. If you don't know a lot about the Tucson Metro Chamber of Commerce, here's what we're all about. We promote a strong local economy. We provide opportunities for business executives to build important relationships. We deliver programs to help your business grow. We represent and advocate on behalf of business in the halls of government. We promote Tucson and Pima County through community stewardship. And the Tucson Metro Chamber can help your business increase its public awareness. Find the Tucson Metro Chamber of Commerce online or call us at 792-2250. And now let's meet today's guest. Our guest today is Rob Elias. Rob is the Director of Marketing for Pima Federal Credit Union and native Tucsonan. He has worked in the areas of marketing and branding for the past 7 years. Rob was awarded one of Tucson's top 40 business leaders under the age of 40 in 2007 at the age of just 26. Quite an accomplishment. He was also awarded one of the inaugural Sonoran Spirit Awards through the Tucson Metro Chamber. Rob is chairman of the Good Morning Tucson Committee that has secured keynote speakers such as Dr. Joseph Michelli, best-selling author and world-renowned speaker on the Starbucks Experience, and Doug Lipp, former head of training for Disney and author of The Changing Face of Today's Customer. Rob also serves as co-chair for the Chamber's Small Business Growth Committee. He has a passion for innovation and progress and wants to make Tucson a better place to live. And I can tell you from working with Rob that that's exactly what he and Pima Federal Credit Union are doing. Rob, good morning. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
We are going to talk a little bit about your industry, Rob, the credit union industry. And I think before we step off any place, we ought to assume that maybe there's not a lot of clarity about the difference between a credit union and a bank. They are very, very different animals. Give us the basics on what's the difference between a credit union and a bank.
Well, this is one of the most common questions that we get out in the community. And the main difference is a bank is owned by its stockholders, by their investors. The credit unions are owned, democratically owned members. If you're a member, you're a co-owner of the credit union. Credit unions are also not-for-profit institutions, whereas a bank is a for-profit institution. And if the credit union happens to make a profit that year, which we try to do, we return that profit to its members in the form of better interest rates as far as deposit accounts and better interest rates on loan accounts as well, on loan balances. The other big part of that is that our board of directors are elected by our membership. So each member, if you're a member, you get one vote. Everybody has an equal vote no matter how many accounts you have or how much money you have in that account, and our board of directors are all volunteer-based.
If anyone pays close attention to credit unions, there are different kinds of credit unions, Rob, and there are federal credit unions, community credit unions, et cetera, et cetera. Again, without digging too deep here, as an overview, what are the difference between the different charters that various credit unions operate under?
Well, there's basically a state charter or a federally chartered, and really it has to do with the people that are eligible for membership. Typically, state charter credit unions are community charters, so which means if you live, work, go to school, or worship within that community, that city, it makes you eligible for membership. Federal credit unions operate a little bit differently, and they're all different. Pima Federal, for example, we are SEG based, and SEG stands for Select Employee Group, which we work with companies like Tucson Electric Power, Pima County employees. You have to be an employer of one of those organizations to be eligible for membership, but we also have other ways to include people as membership as well.
Okay. That helps lend some clarity, at least for me. Let's go back. Banks have been around for a jillion years. I don't know how long credit unions have been around. You probably have some kind of an idea about that. But if banks have been around for so long, what gave somebody the idea to start a credit union one day? What was the motivating force?
Well, the credit unions date back to the 1800s back in Europe when there was a famine. A crop failure and a famine in the 1800s, and a gentleman whose name I can't pronounce said, you know what, we need to do something for these people. So he formed a cooperative with livestock and farm equipment and things like that, and he actually sold bread to his members at a cheaper rate than anybody else. So he really worked with a bunch of different organizations to form a cooperative, and that's really how a credit union started. And credit unions are just cooperatives in the financial world. That
lends another level of clarity for me that it is like a co-op where members are all helping one another, and there's obviously paid staff to make sure that that everything internally is taken care of in terms of the operations. But it is really a financial institution that you own if you're a member.
Absolutely, 100%.
We talked before moments ago about the different types of charters and so forth. Going back to that concept of membership, I think you defined that certain credit unions can solicit membership from certain constituent groups and so forth. What does it take to join a credit union? I know I can walk into a bank someplace and just sign up for an account. What do I have to do to become a member at a credit union?
It's not much different than it is a bank. If you want to become a member of a credit union, we will find a way for you to become a member of our credit union or any other credit union here in Tucson, as we have some great ones. But really, all you need is for most credit unions is a $25 minimum share account. So that's a regular savings account. The credit union doesn't take any of that money. It just goes into your savings account, and you must keep that minimum share of $25 to be a voting member. So we really try not to make it difficult to open an account just like you would, at a bank. It's just as easy as for a credit union.
And in terms of the services provided by a credit union, Rob, the same things that somebody might expect if they walked into the XYZ bank someplace?
Absolutely, same thing. Some credit unions do things differently. Pima Federal doesn't do business loans, but we do have credit unions in Tucson, great credit unions that do business loans. But we can do everything a bank can do: mortgages, auto loans, credit cards, really anything that a bank can do, we can do as well.
And then we've talked about the history of credit unions. What's the history of Pima Federal here in Tucson?
And that is an interesting story. We actually started in 1951 in a auto body shop at Amphi High School, and one of our teachers at Amphi High School walked into another credit union here in Tucson and wanted to buy a car from O'Reilly Chevrolet, and wanted to get a loan through that credit union. And they said, "Well, where do you teach at?" And they said, "Well, Amphi High School." And the employee of this credit union said, "Well, you should really open up a credit union, start a credit union for Amphi teachers." He says, "That's a great idea. I think I'll do that." So he and 15 other teachers pooled their money together for $84 in total assets. So it started with 16 teachers from Amphi School District.
What a story.
And $84 in total assets.
What a story that is. I had no idea what you were going to say on that one. I have to admit, it's kind of the Steve Jobs of credit unions, starting something almost in a garage, so to
Absolutely.
speak. Yeah, wow, that's interesting. Everybody knows that in the mid part of the 2000s, and especially in the later part of the 2000s, right up to today, that many conventional banks found themselves with some real issues in terms of the toxic assets and so forth and so on. How did credit unions fare through that period?
Credit unions were affected somewhat, but not too much really. There was not one credit union in the United States that took one penny of any taxpayers' money because it is a financial cooperative. What we did is we pool our money together as cooperatives and help bail out each other. And none of that comes from taxpayers' dollars. Now, I'm not going to sit here and badmouth any other financial institution, bank or credit union or otherwise, but we all serve our own different niche. And, banks certainly had their struggles. They were trying to do things a little bit differently for their investors. And some of those decisions turned out to be bad, and that's the beauty of hindsight. But, credit unions fared okay. There's a lot of backlash on banks, so they took their money to credit unions. And yes, we love to take those members as well. But we still will never say a bad thing about a bank.
Well, and I appreciate that. It's very professional of you. What I'm hearing in your answer, though, is that the credit unions might have had a little better go of it than the typical bank might have had. I hope that's the right impression I should be taking away from that.
Yes, sir. That's right.
All right, I'll say it for you then.
All right.
Rob, when banks advertise, you always see that member FDIC on their ad, or you hear it or see it on a television commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a corresponding insurance group that works with credit unions?
There is. It's actually called NCUA. It's called it stands for National Credit Union Administration, and it is it is the U.S. federal government that backs us and regulates us and monitors us, just as the FDIC does for all banks. We're pretty much governed by the same rules. The only reason some government legislature doesn't affect banks is just we're smaller institutions. We're more organically grown, and we're just not at the big size that they are, so we can't compete on that level, but we still have to follow the same rules as they do.
One of the things that I hear all the time in my travels and my listening tour with businesses big and small across Tucson and Pima County is I hear frequently that companies that would like to grow, they would like to, perhaps they're in a position to hire more employees, kind of feel stagnated because the availability and access to credit has changed so much since the mortgage meltdown. And the conventional wisdom, the people I talk to anyway, is that the federal government stepped in and went from maybe what some people might describe as lax supervision and just really overdid it in the other way, and now they're clamping down so tightly that banks, which are, and I'm sure credit unions too, that are in the business of lending money because that's how they make money, are having a little bit more of a difficult time doing that because of financial industry regulations. Has that affected credit unions?
Oh, without a doubt, absolutely. I think the big differentiator between a credit union and a bank is, and some credit unions do business lending, but the things that have happened over the past decade or so, 5 to 10 years, have been certainly bad for entrepreneurial spirit. And we know there are a lot of great people out there, a lot of very bright people that have a dream to start their own business, and just because of what has transpired over the past few years, it's really hindered that. But I think all credit unions are looking for reasons to lend people money. We want to rebuild that entrepreneurial spirit and really help them in any way they can. Everybody's working on a dream and they want a better life, and we shouldn't in any way try to stifle that creativity or that drive to be great.
While we're on the subject of looking backwards and kind of assessing where we are right now, where do you see about the future of financial services, banks, credit unions, et cetera, et cetera? Where are we going in the future? Not that I'm going to hold you to this because nobody has a crystal ball, but what's Rob's opinion about where we're going?
Well, my opinion, and I can only really speak on this from the way we feel at Pima Federal, and I don't really want this to be a commercial on what we do at our company, but we really want to bring back the experience that people have. We don't want having to go to the bank or the credit union to be an errand in your day. We want it to be more of a destination. We don't want to rush people in and out and worry about the transaction rate. We don't focus on transactions with our members. We focus on the interactions. But you see a lot of banks starting to do that as well as other industries.